The girl's fingers paced in 3 quick taps against her collarbone. Tap, tap, tap. She sat in the corner of the restaurant, head down, shoulders hunched like she was trying to disappear into the plastic chair. The man across the room noticed immediately because that signal, he taught it to street kids in Busan 15 years ago when he was someone different. Taewon froze with his chopsticks halfway to his mouth. The 10-year-old was Ethiopian, her dark skin almost glowing under the fluorescent lights, her hair pulled back, so tight it probably hurt. She wasn't looking at him, but her hand kept moving. 3 taps. The distress code. The man sitting across from her was all wrong. Too old, too nervous, kept glancing at the door like he expected trouble. Taewon set down his chopsticks and reached for his phone, typing fast under the table to his driver. "Boss, you seeing this?" June whispered from 2 tables over. Taewon gave the smallest nod. The girl tapped again. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused, and Taewon's jaw tightened because he recognized that look too. Drugged. The man with her stood abruptly, grabbing her arm, and Taewon was already moving. "Excuse me." His voice was polite and controlled. "I think you dropped something." The man turned, irritated, and Taewon saw the exact moment he recognized who he was talking to. His face went white. In Daegu, everyone knew Kong Taewon. Former gang leader turned legitimate businessman, though the former part was debatable depending on who you asked. "I know, we're leaving." The girl stays. Taewon's tone didn't change, but something in his eyes did. The man's hand loosened on the girl's arm. "She's my niece. I don't know who you think." Your niece wouldn't be signaling for help in code most people forgot existed a decade ago. Taewon moved closer, and June was suddenly there too, blocking the exit. "So, let's try this again. The girl stays. You leave. Or we have a very different conversation in the back alley." The man released her arm and practically ran out of the restaurant. Taewon crouched down to the girl's level, his expression softening. "Hey, I'm Taewon. You're safe now, okay? Can you tell me your name?" She blinked slowly, fighting whatever was in her system. "Ife," she slurred. "My name, Ife." "Ife. That's beautiful. Someone taught you that signal, didn't they?" "Who?" "My brother, Hudson. He said if I was ever scared, 3 taps." Her eyes filled with tears. "But they took him. They took him, and I don't know where." Taewon's chest tightened. "When? When did they take your brother?" 3 days ago. We were just trying to sell our mother's jewelry at the market because she died, and we had nothing left, and these men said they'd help us, but then they separated us, and I woke up in a room, and that man said I had to go with him, and... Sure, it's okay. You did exactly right." Taewon pulled out his phone again, this time calling someone else. "Ife, I'm going to help you find Hudson. But first we need to get you to a hospital, get whatever they gave you out of your system. Is that okay?" She nodded, and then promptly threw up on his expensive shoes. Taewon didn't even flinch. June rushed over with napkins, and Taewon just kept his hand on her back, steadying her. "Sorry," Ife whispered. "Don't be. Not your fault." He scooped her up easily. She weighed almost nothing, and headed for the door. "June, find out who that man was. I want names, addresses, everyone involved in whatever trafficking ring they're running. And I want it by morning. On it, boss." The hospital was private, expensive, the kind of place that didn't ask questions when Kong Taewon brought in a sick child at midnight. The doctor examined Ife while Taewon paced in the hallway, making calls, pulling strings, activating networks he'd spent years building. "Hudson," he muttered into the phone. "Ethiopian boy, probably 12 or 13, brought into the city illegally 3 days ago. Check the usual spots, restaurants needing dishwashers, construction sites, anywhere they'd use child labor. And check the worst places too. If he's..." Taewon couldn't finish that sentence. "Just find him." 3 hours later, Ife was asleep in a hospital bed, and 4 in her arm flushing her system clean. Taewon sat in the chair beside her, exhausted but wired. His phone buzzed. "June. We found him." Taewon's eyes closed in relief. "Where?" "Textile factory on the east side. Locked in with about 15 other kids. Boss, it's bad. They've been working them 16-hour shifts, barely feeding them. Your boy Hudson tried to escape twice. June hesitated. They punished him for it. He's alive, but he's hurt. Get them out. All of them. Call Detective Ryu. Tell him I'm cashing in that favor. And June, the people running that factory. I want them scared. Not hurt, just scared enough to never try this again. Understood. By dawn, Hudson was in the hospital room next to his sisters. Taewon watched through the window as a nurse cleaned the cuts on the boy's arms, the bruises on his back. Hudson was thin, dark-skinned like his sister, with eyes that had seen too much for 13. When the nurse finished, Taewon knocked softly and entered. You're Hudson. The boy tensed immediately. Who are you? Where's Ife? If you hurt her, I swear. She's next door. She's safe. Still sleeping, but the doctors say she'll be fine. Taewon pulled up a chair. Your sister's very brave. And very smart. That signal you taught her? It saved her life. Hudson's shoulders sagged with relief. Can I see her? Soon. They want to monitor you both a bit longer. Make sure there's no lasting damage. Taewon leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Hudson, I need to ask you some questions. About what happened. About the people who took you. Can you do that? The boy's jaw clenched. Why? You a cop? No. But I know people. And I can make sure what happened to you doesn't happen to anyone else. Taewon's voice was steady, calm. Your sister used a code I taught street kids a long time ago. Back when I was different. Someone must have taught you. Who? Mr. Park. He ran a shelter in Busan where we stayed when we first came to Korea. He said you used to fund it before you moved to Daegu. He said. Hudson's voice cracked. He said if we were ever in real trouble, to use that signal and hope someone remembered. Taewon's throat tightened. He did fund that shelter. Still did, actually, through a shell company. Mr. Park's a good man. And you're a good brother. Teaching Ife that signal, it's the only reason I knew she needed help. Are you really going to help us? Or are you just another person who makes promises they don't keep? Hudson's voice was bitter, and Taewon couldn't blame him. I'm going to help you. Both of you. You have my word. Taewon stood, pulling a card from his wallet. This has my personal number on it. You call me if you need anything. Food, clothes, a place to stay. Anything. Understand. Hudson took the card suspiciously. Why? What do you want from us? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Taewon moved toward the door, then paused. Get some rest. And when Ife wakes up, tell her she was incredibly brave. Not many people would have remembered that signal under pressure. He left before Hudson could respond, and walked straight into the hallway where June was waiting with a tablet. Factory shut down. 15 kids recovered, all getting medical attention. Detective Ryu made arrests. And boss, we ID'd the network. It's bigger than we thought. Spans 3 cities run by. I don't care who runs it. I want it gone. Every location, every person involved. Taewon's voice was ice. Use whatever resources you need. Call in every favor I'm owed. This ends now. June nodded slowly. This is personal for you. Those kids are the same age I was when. Taewon trailed off, shaking his head. Just handle it. And find a good foster situation for Hudson and Ife. Somewhere safe. Somewhere they can actually be kids for once. Already on it. There's a woman in Daegu, Mrs. Choi, runs a small group home. She's good people, vetted, clean record. She's willing to take them. Good. Set it up. But when Taewon returned to check on them the next morning, Ife was awake and Hudson was sitting on her bed, holding her hand. The moment Taewon walked in, Ife burst into tears. Thank you. Thank you for finding him. I was so scared I thought they'd. Hey, you're okay. Both of you. That's what matters. Taewon pulled up the chair again. Listen, I've arranged a place for you to stay. A real home, with a woman who'll take care of you properly. You'll have your own room, go to school, normal stuff. Hudson and Ife exchanged glances. Then Hudson spoke carefully. What's the catch? No catch. You're kids. You deserve a childhood. Taewon pulled out his phone, showing them photos of Mrs. Choi's home. It's not a palace, but it's safe and clean and she's kind. She already has 3 other kids living with her, all around your ages. Aoife studied the photos, then looked at Taewon with those big, too knowing eyes. You're not a bad person, are you? Even though people say you used to be? The question caught him off guard. I've done things I'm not proud of, but I'm trying to be better. Does that make sense? She nodded seriously. Our mother used to say, everyone has light and dark inside them. It's which one you feed that matters. Her voice got quieter. Before she got sick, she told us to always look for the helpers. You're a helper. Something in Taewon's chest cracked open. He cleared his throat roughly. Yeah, well, your mom sounds like she was a wise woman. She was. Hudson's voice was thick with grief. She died 6 months ago. We've been on our own since then. Tried to make it work, but... He gestured helplessly. We're just kids. We didn't know what we were doing. You did better than most adults would have, Taewon said firmly. You kept your sister safe. You taught her how to signal for help. You survived. That takes strength. 3 days later, Taewon drove them to Mrs. Choi's home himself. It was a modest house in a quiet neighborhood with a small garden out front and toys scattered across the lawn. Mrs. Choi was in her 50s, plump and warm, with kind eyes and flour on her apron from baking. Welcome, welcome. She ushered them inside, already fussing over Aoife's too-thin frame. Oh, you poor darlings. Come in. I've made sweetbread and there's fresh fruit, and Mr. Kong, always a pleasure. Mrs. Choi. Taewon bowed respectfully. Thank you for taking them on such short notice. Nonsense. Any child who needs help is welcome here. She turned to Hudson and Aoife. Now, let me show you your room. I put you together for now since I figured you'd want to stay close, but if you'd rather have separate rooms, we can arrange that too. Her voice faded as she led them upstairs. Taewon stood in the entryway, suddenly feeling out of place. This was a home. A real home, with laughter and warmth and the smell of baking bread. He'd never had anything like this growing up. When Mrs. Choi came back down, she fixed him with a knowing look. You did a good thing, Mr. Kong. Those children have been through trauma. They'll need time, patience, maybe therapy. But they're resilient. They'll heal. I want updates. Regular ones. And if they need anything, I have your number. I'll call. Mrs. Choi smiled gently. You could visit sometimes. If you wanted. I think Aoife's already quite attached to you. Taewon shifted uncomfortably. I'm not. I wouldn't know how to. Just be yourself. That's all children really need. Authenticity. She patted his arm. Think about it. He did think about it. For 3 weeks straight while his team systematically dismantled the trafficking network. They recovered 42 children total, shut down 8 illegal operations, and fed enough information to the police to make dozens of arrests. It was satisfying work, important work, but Taewon found himself distracted. He'd think about Aoife's serious little face, the way she'd thanked him with such earnest gratitude. About Hudson's protective anger, the fierce love he had for his sister. About the way they'd both looked at him like he was someone worth trusting. Finally, he called Mrs. Choi. How are they settling in? Wonderfully, all things considered. Aoife started school and she's bright as a button, top of her class already. Hudson's having a harder time. He's so used to being responsible for everything. He doesn't know how to just be a child. He's very protective of Aoife still. That's good. Protective is good. Taewon hesitated. You said I could visit? This Saturday? We're having a little birthday party for one of the other children. Nothing fancy, just cake and games. The kids would love to see you. So Taewon found himself at a children's birthday party on Saturday afternoon, feeling wildly out of place in his designer clothes while kids ran screaming through the backyard. Aoife spotted him immediately and came running over. Mr. Kong, you came. She grabbed his hand unselfconsciously. Come on, you have to meet everyone. This is Maya, and that's Samuel, and the birthday girl is Yuki. She's turning 9 today. She dragged him around introducing him to every child there, chattering away about school and her new friends and how Mrs. Choi made the best pancakes in the world. Taewon found himself smiling despite his discomfort, charmed by her enthusiasm. Hudson approached more cautiously. Didn't think you'd actually show up. I said I would. Taewon met his eyes. How are you doing? Really? The boy shrugged. Better, I guess. Still have nightmares sometimes. But Aoife seems happy, and that's what matters. What about you? What makes you happy? Hudson looked genuinely confused by the question, like no one had ever asked him before. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. Maybe you should start. Taewon's voice was quiet. You're allowed to want things for yourself too. Not just for Aoife. Before Hudson could respond, Mrs. Choi called everyone for cake. Taewon ended up sitting between Aoife and Maya, helping them eat their slices while frosting somehow ended up everywhere. It was chaotic and loud and messy and nice. Really nice. When it was time to leave, Aoife hugged him goodbye. Just walked up and wrapped her arms around his waist like it was the most natural thing in the world. Taewon froze for a second, then carefully hugged her back. You'll come again, right? She asked. Yeah, I'll come again. And he did. Every week, then twice a week, then he somehow became a regular fixture at Mrs. Choi's house. He'd help with homework, fix broken toys, drive kids to doctor's appointments when Mrs. Choi was overwhelmed. The children started calling him Uncle Taewon, which made something warm bloom in his chest every time he heard it. 2 months in, Hudson started opening up. Started talking about their mother, about Ethiopia, about the journey to Korea, and all the hardships along the way. Taewon listened to all of it, never judging, never pushing, just being there. You're different than I expected, Hudson said one afternoon while they worked on a school project together. When Mrs. Choi first said you were coming, I looked you up online. The articles about you, they made you sound scary. I can be scary. When I need to be. Taewon glued 2 pieces of cardboard together. But scary doesn't mean bad. Sometimes being a little scary keeps the people you care about safe. Is that why you helped us? Because you were scared for us. Maybe. Or maybe I just recognized a signal I taught street kids a long time ago and couldn't walk away. Taewon handed Hudson the glue. Does it matter why? I guess not. You still did it. Hudson was quiet for a moment. I want to be like you when I grow up. Strong enough to protect people. Taewon's throat tightened. You're already strong, Hudson. You kept your sister alive through impossible circumstances. That takes more strength than anything I've ever done. The weeks turned into months, and Taewon's visits became the highlight of his week. His business partners noticed the change in him. He was softer somehow, quicker to smile, less ruthless in negotiations. June ribbed him about going domestic. Never thought I'd see the day Kong Taewon plays house with a bunch of orphans, June teased. Careful, Taewon warned without heat. I can still fire you. No, you can't. I know where all the bodies are buried. June grinned. Metaphorically speaking, of course. Of course. But then everything changed on a random Tuesday afternoon. Taewon was at his office when Mrs. Choi called, her voice panicked. Mr. Kong, something's happened. Aoife collapsed at school. They've taken her to the hospital and the doctors are running tests, but they're saying something about her heart, and I don't understand medical terminology, and Hudson's absolutely beside himself. I'm on my way. Which hospital? He made it there in 15 minutes, breaking every traffic law in existence. Mrs. Choi was in the waiting room with Hudson, who looked completely devastated. The moment Hudson saw Taewon, he broke. She just collapsed. 1 minute she was playing at recess, and the next she was on the ground and she wasn't moving, and I thought she was dead like Mom, and Taewon pulled him into a hug, letting the boy cry into his shoulder. She's not dead. She's here. She's getting help. Whatever's wrong, we'll fix it. I promise. You can't promise that. You don't know. Then I promise I'll do everything in my power to help her. How's that? Mrs. Choi wrung her hands. The doctor wants to speak with family, but since I'm not legally their guardian and they don't have any other relatives, I'll talk to them. Taewon gently extracted himself from Hudson and approached the nurse's desk. I'm here about Aoife. Actually, I don't know her last name. Aoife Abra, Mrs. Choi supplied. The nurse checked her computer. Are you family? Taewon hesitated, then made a decision. I'm her guardian. I've been handling her care since she came to Korea. It was technically true if you stretched the definition of guardian. The nurse seemed to buy it because she paged the doctor. Dr. Song appeared 10 minutes later, looking grave. Mr.
Kong.
What's wrong with Aoife? She has a congenital heart defect. Severe ventricular septal defect, which means there's a hole between the lower chambers of her heart. It's been putting strain on her cardiovascular system for years, and it's finally reached a critical point. She needs surgery soon or... Dr. Song's expression was grim.
I'm sorry.
Without intervention, she has maybe 6 months. The world tilted sideways. Taewon grabbed the wall for support. Surgery.
What are we talking about?
What does she need? Open heart surgery to repair the defect. It's a complicated procedure, but we have excellent surgeons here who specialize in pediatric cardiac cases. The success rate is quite high if we act quickly. Then do it. Whatever it costs, whatever she needs, just do it. Dr. Song looked relieved. I'll schedule it for next week. We'll need to run some preliminary tests first. Make sure she's strong enough for the operation. You should know, the recovery will be long. Several weeks in the hospital, then months of careful monitoring at home. We'll handle it. Whatever she needs. Taewon's mind was already racing ahead, planning, organizing. Can I see her? Room 304. She's awake, but groggy. We got her on medication to stabilize her heart rate. Aoife looked so small in the hospital bed, hooked up to monitors and IVs. Her eyes were half closed, but they opened when Taewon entered. Uncle Taewon? The uncle hit him right in the chest. Hey, kiddo. Gave everyone quite a scare. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Her voice was weak.
Is Hudson okay? He looked so scared.
He's fine.
Worried about you, obviously. Taewon sat in the chair beside her bed. The doctors say you need surgery. To fix your heart. Are you scared? She nodded, tears pooling in her eyes. What if I don't wake up? Like Mom didn't wake up? Taewon's jaw clenched. That's not going to happen. You're going to have the surgery, and you're going to heal, and you're going to go back to school and drive Hudson crazy and grow up to do amazing things. Okay. You can't know that. No, I can't. But I believe it. And sometimes belief is enough. He took her small hand in his. You're strong, Aoife. You've survived things that would break most people. You're going to survive this too. She squeezed his hand weakly. Will you stay? Until Hudson gets here? I don't want to be alone. I'm not going anywhere. Hudson was allowed in shortly after, and he basically climbed into the bed with his sister, holding her carefully, like she might break. Taewon stepped out to give them privacy and found Mrs. Choi crying in the hallway. This is my fault. I should have noticed something was wrong. Should have taken her to a doctor for a checkup. This isn't your fault. It's a congenital defect, which means she was born with it. There's no way you could have known. Taewon's voice was firm. What matters now is she gets the treatment she needs. The surgery? Mr. Kong, I don't have that kind of money. My savings won't even cover a fraction of. I'm covering it. All of it. Surgery, hospital stay, medication, follow-up care, everything. Mrs. Choi looked stunned. That's too much. I can't let you. You're not letting me do anything. I'm doing this because I want to. Because Aoife matters to me, and Hudson matters to me, and I have the resources to help, so I'm helping. Taewon's expression softened. Please, let me do this. She nodded tearfully. You're a good man, Mr. Kong. Whatever your past, your heart is in the right place. The week before surgery was tense. Aoife had to stay in the hospital for monitoring, which meant Hudson basically camped out in her room. Taewon rearranged his entire schedule to be there as much as possible, bringing homework and books and card games to keep them occupied. On the third day, Aoife asked him about his family. Do you have kids, Uncle Taewon? The question caught him off guard. No. That wasn't really in the cards for me. Why not? You'd be a good dad. Something in his chest ached. I don't know about that. My own father wasn't exactly a great role model. What was he like? Taewon hesitated. He never talked about his father with anyone except his therapist. He was angry. A lot. And he drank. And when he drank, Taewon trailed off, not wanting to scare her. He wasn't kind. Let's leave it at that. Aoife processed this seriously. Is that why you help kids? Because you know what it's like to not be helped. The girl was far too perceptive for 10 years old. Maybe. I never really thought about it that way, but yeah, maybe. I'm glad you helped. I'm glad you helped us. She yawned, the medication making her drowsy. When I grow up, I want to help kids too. Kids like me and Hudson who don't have anyone. That's a beautiful dream, Aoife. Will you help me? When I'm older and ready to do it for real? Absolutely. I'll help you build the biggest, best children's home in all of Korea. How's that sound? She smiled, eyes already closing. Perfect. The night before surgery, Taewon found Hudson sitting alone in the hospital cafeteria, not eating the food in front of him. He sat down across from him. You should eat something. Not hungry. Hudson. What if she doesn't make it? The boy's voice cracked. What if the surgery goes wrong and I lose her too? She's all I have left. If she dies, I'll be completely alone, and I don't. I can't. Hey, look at me. Taewon waited until Hudson met his eyes. First of all, you're not alone. You have Mrs. Choi, you have the other kids, you have me. And second, Aoife's going to be fine. The doctors here are the best in the country. I made sure of that. You can't guarantee she'll survive. No, I can't. But I can promise that whatever happens, I'll be here. For both of you. That's not going to change. Taewon's voice was steady, certain. You're not getting rid of me, Hudson. I'm in this for the long haul. Hudson's eyes filled with tears.
Why?
Why do you care so much about us? We're nothing to you. Just two random kids you helped once. You're not nothing. You're. Taewon struggled to find the right words.
You're important to me. Both of you.
And I know I'm not your father, and I'm not trying to replace your parents, but I care about what happens to you. A lot. Like family, the word hung between them. Taewon swallowed hard.
Yeah.
Like family. Hudson launched himself across the table, hugging Taewon fiercely. And Taewon hugged him back, this broken, brave boy who'd been through so much and let himself feel the weight of the responsibility he'd just taken on. The surgery took 8 hours. Taewon paced the waiting room the entire time, unable to sit still. June showed up halfway through with coffee and food, forcing Taewon to eat at least something. Boss, you need to calm down. The doctors know what they're doing. She's 10 years old, June 10. And she's in there with her chest cracked open, and if something goes wrong, nothing's going to go wrong. But June's confidence didn't stop Taewon's mind from spiraling through every worst-case scenario. What if the surgery failed? What if there were complications? What if he'd promised Hudson everything would be okay, and then had to watch Aoife die anyway? When Dr. Song finally emerged, Taewon nearly tackled him. She's stable. The surgery went very well. We repaired the defect, and her heart is responding beautifully. She'll need to stay in ICU for a few days, but barring any unforeseen complications, she should make a full recovery. Taewon's knees nearly gave out with relief. Can we see her? She's still under anesthesia, but you can sit with her. Just be quiet, let her rest. Aoife looked even tinier in the ICU, surrounded by machines and tubes. But her heart monitor showed a strong, steady rhythm, and there was color in her cheeks that hadn't been there before. Hudson held her hand carefully, crying silent tears of relief. Taewon stood back, watching them, and felt something shift in his chest. These kids had become his. Somewhere along the way, without him fully realizing it, he'd stopped being just a helpful stranger and started being something more. Aoife woke up 2 days later, groggy and in pain but alive. She smiled when she saw Taewon. Told you, she whispered. Told you I'd make it.
You did.
You were so brave. Taewon had to blink back tears. How do you feel? Like someone cut open my chest. Well, they did. So that's accurate. He managed a weak laugh. But you're going to heal. And you're going to be stronger than ever. Recovery was slow and painful. Aoife had good days and bad days, days where she could sit up and laugh, and days where even breathing hurt too much. Through all of it, Taewon was there. He rearranged his entire life around hospital visits, brought her favorite foods, read to her when she was too tired to hold a book herself. 6 weeks after surgery, she was finally discharged. Mrs. Choi's house had been modified to accommodate her recovery. A hospital bed in the living room, medical equipment, everything she might need. Taewon had paid for all of it without blinking. This is too much, Mrs. Choi protested weakly when she saw the setup. It's exactly enough. Ife needs proper care during recovery, and this is how we make that happen. Taewon's tone left no room for argument. The first night home, Ife asked Taewon to stay until she fell asleep. He sat beside her bed, holding her hand, and she looked at him with those two old eyes. Thank you. For everything. For saving me twice now. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. You didn't have to do any of this. You could have just walked away after that first day, but you stayed. You kept staying. Her voice was soft. I know I'm not your real daughter, but sometimes it feels like maybe you could be my real dad. Taewon's breath caught. Ife, I'm not asking you to adopt us or anything. I know that's complicated and you probably don't want kids, and we're a lot of trouble anyway. I wanted you to know that's how I think of you. As my dad. Even if it's not official. He didn't trust himself to speak for a moment. Finally, roughly, you're not trouble. Either of you. And if it were possible. He stopped, shook his head. Get some rest. We'll talk more tomorrow. But the conversation haunted him. That night, lying in his too empty apartment, Taewon stared at the ceiling and asked himself a question he'd never considered before. What if he could be their father? Not just Uncle Taewon who visited sometimes, but actually legally their dad? The idea was ridiculous. He was a former gang leader with a questionable past and dangerous connections. He'd never wanted children, had actively avoided even the possibility. He had no idea how to be a real parent, but he loved those kids. Somewhere along the way, without meaning to, he'd fallen completely in love with Ife's bright smile and Hudson's fierce protectiveness and the way they both looked at him like he hung the moon. The next morning, he called his lawyer. I need information about adoption. Specifically, adopting 2 children from Ethiopia who are currently in foster care. There was a long pause. Mr. Kong, are you serious? Completely. What do I need to do? The process was complicated. Background checks, home studies, interviews, mountains of paperwork. Taewon's past was a significant obstacle, his former gang affiliations, his still somewhat questionable business dealings, the fact that he was single and had no experience with children. But he was also wealthy, influential, and genuinely committed. He spent months preparing, transforming his apartment into a space suitable for children, undergoing therapy to address his own childhood trauma, taking parenting classes that made him feel completely out of his depth. Through all of it, he didn't tell Hudson or Ife what he was planning. He didn't want to get their hopes up in case it fell through. But Mrs. Choi figured it out. You're trying to adopt them, aren't you? Taewon didn't bother denying it. Is that wrong? Am I being selfish? Selfish? Mr. Kong, you've spent the better part of a year caring for those children like they're your own. You've paid for surgeries and therapy and school supplies and never asked for anything in return. That's not selfish. That's love. I don't know how to be a father. My own dad was. Taewon trailed off. I'm terrified I'll mess them up. Every parent is terrified of that. It's part of the job. Mrs. Choi's smile was gentle. But you show up. You stay. You put their needs before your own. That's what makes a good parent. Not perfection. Just consistent, genuine love. The adoption was approved 6 months later. Taewon got the call on a Friday afternoon and immediately drove to Mrs. Choi's house. Hudson and Ife were doing homework at the kitchen table when he walked in. Can we talk? All 3 of us. They looked at each other nervously and followed him to the living room. Taewon sat down, suddenly more nervous than he'd been for any business negotiation. So, I've been working on something for a while now. Something important. And I wanted to ask you both how you'd feel about it before moving forward. Okay. Ife said cautiously. You know how you said I feel like your dad? Even though it's not official? Taewon pulled out the adoption papers. What if we made it official? What if I adopted you? Both of you? Silence. Total, complete silence. Then Ife burst into tears and Hudson just stared at him in shock. Are you serious? Hudson's voice was barely a whisper. Completely serious. I know I'm not perfect, and I know I don't really know what I'm doing, but I love you both, and I want to be your father. If you'll have me. Aoife launched herself at him, nearly knocking him over with the force of her hug.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. I want that so much. Hudson was slower to react, his expression guarded. What about when you get tired of us? What about when being a dad gets too hard and you decide you made a mistake? Taewon met his eyes steadily. That's not going to happen, Hudson. I'm not going anywhere. I made a promise, remember? I'm in this for the long haul. People break promises all the time. I won't. Not this one. Never this one. Taewon's voice was firm. I want to be your dad. I want to take you home, give you your own rooms, help with homework, embarrass you at school functions, all of it. I want to be family. Real family. Finally, Hudson's carefully constructed walls crumbled. He joined his sister in hugging Taewon, and the three of them sat there on Mrs. Choi's couch crying and laughing and holding each other tight. 2 weeks later, they moved into Taewon's apartment, which he'd completely renovated. Aoife's room was painted soft yellow with bookshelves and a desk for homework. Hudson's was blue with space for all his art supplies and a computer for the graphic design classes he'd started taking. There was even a family room with a huge TV for movie nights. This is really ours? Aoife spun in a circle in her room. All of this. All yours. Forever. Taewon leaned against the doorframe, watching her explore. We can change anything you don't like. Paint the walls different colors, get new furniture, whatever you want. No, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. She hugged him again.
Thank you, Dad. Dad.
The word still sent a jolt through him every time he heard it. You're welcome, sweetheart. Adjusting to family life was strange and wonderful and terrifying. Taewon had to learn how to pack lunches and help with science projects and enforce bedtimes. He had to navigate sibling arguments and teenage moods and the particular challenges of raising children who'd experienced trauma. But he also got to experience things he'd never imagined. Aoife's excitement when she brought home straight A's on her report card. Hudson's quiet pride when his artwork was selected for the school gallery. Family dinners where they all talked about their day. Movie nights where they piled on the couch with popcorn and argued about what to watch. June thought it was hilarious. Boss, you're literally wearing a world's best dad apron right now. Do you realize how far you've fallen? I'm making pancakes. The apron was a gift from Aoife. And I haven't fallen. I've evolved. Taewon flipped a pancake expertly. Tell me that's not a perfect flip. It's a perfect flip. You're a domestic god. I'm very proud. Your sarcasm is noted. But privately, Taewon was happier than he'd ever been. Coming home to his kids, helping with homework, the little rituals they'd developed. It filled something in him he hadn't known was empty. 6 months into the adoption, Hudson asked to talk to him privately. What's up? Taewon settled into the chair across from Hudson's desk. I've been thinking about Mom and Dad. Our bio parents. Hudson's fingers twisted together nervously. I don't want to forget them. Is that okay?
Even though you're our dad now.
Of course it's okay. They're part of who you are, Hudson. They'll always matter. Taewon leaned forward. Loving me doesn't mean you have to stop loving them. Your heart's big enough for all of us. I wish you could have met Mom. I think you would have liked her. She was strong like you. Protective. Hudson's eyes got distant. She would have liked you too. She always said to look for people who match their actions to their words. That's you. She sounds like an incredible woman. And she raised an incredible son. Taewon's voice was soft. You know, if you want, we could put together a memory book. Photos, stories, anything you remember about your parents. So Aoife can remember too. Hudson's face brightened. Really? You'd help with that? Of course. They're part of your history. Part of your story. We should honor that. They spent the next few weeks gathering memories. Hudson drew pictures of their home in Ethiopia, wrote down stories their mother used to tell. Aoife added her own fuzzy memories, things she'd almost forgotten. Together, they created a beautiful tribute to the parents they'd lost. The day they finished, Hudson hugged Taewon tight. Thank you for not trying to replace them. I could never replace them. I'm just adding to the family, not erasing anyone. Taewon hugged him back. Your mom and dad will always be your parents. I'm just lucky enough to be your dad too. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Taewon adjusted his work schedule to be more present, started attending school functions and parent-teacher conferences. He was the only dad at the PDA meetings, often the only man in the room, but he showed up anyway because it mattered to his kids. Then Aoife started asking about her heritage. Dad, can you tell me about Ethiopia? About where Mom and Hudson and I came from. Taewon realized he didn't know enough. He'd learned Korean history in school, understood his own culture deeply, but he knew nothing about Ethiopia beyond basic geography. That needed to change. He hired a tutor, someone from the Ethiopian community in Taegu, who could teach all three of them. They learned about the history, the culture, the food. Taewon attempted to cook injera and failed spectacularly, which had the kids laughing so hard they couldn't breathe. Dad, it's supposed to be spongy, not whatever that is, Hudson wheezed between giggles. It's my first try. Cut me some slack. But Taewon was laughing too, and that was the thing. He could fail, and it was okay because they loved him anyway. They celebrated Ethiopian holidays alongside Korean ones. Learned Amharic phrases to go with their Korean and English. Taewon made sure his children understood they didn't have to choose between cultures. They could be both, could honor all parts of themselves. On the 1-year anniversary of the adoption, Taewon planned a surprise. He'd been working with an agency for months, pulling strings and calling in favors. When he presented the tickets to his kids at dinner, Aoife screamed, "We're going to Ethiopia? Really? For real? 2 weeks during summer break. We'll visit where you used to live, see family friends if we can find them, learn more about your roots." Taewon smiled at their excitement. "I thought it was time you showed me where you came from." The trip was transformative. Walking through the streets of Addis Ababa with his children, seeing them reconnect with their heritage. Taewon felt privileged to witness it. They found their mother's childhood friend who cried when she saw how big Hudson and Aoife had gotten. They visited the small village where their parents had grown up. And Taewon learned about resilience and community and joy in the face of hardship. About how much strength it had taken for his children to survive. About the sacrifices their parents had made trying to give them a better life. "Thank you for bringing us here," Hudson said on their last night. They were sitting on the balcony of their hotel, watching the city lights. "I needed this, to remember where I came from. I'm glad we came." Taewon put his arm around Hudson's shoulders. "You should never have to forget who you are. Not for me, not for anyone. I'm not forgetting. I'm just adding layers. I'm Ethiopian, and I'm Korean now too. And I'm your son. All of it's true at the same time."
Exactly.
All of it's true. Back in Korea, life continued its forward momentum. Aoife joined the robotics club at school and started talking about becoming an engineer. Hudson got accepted into an advanced art program. They were thriving, growing, becoming themselves in ways that made Taewon's heart swell with pride. But then, 2 years after the adoption, everything shifted again. Taewon was at a charity gala, the kind of tedious networking event he normally avoided, when he saw her. She was standing by the dessert table, looking just as uncomfortable in her formal dress as he felt in his suit. African, probably late 20s, with natural hair pulled back and the kind of direct gaze that saw right through people's masks. Their eyes met across the room, and something sparked. Recognition. Maybe, though they'd never met. A sense of kindred spirits in a room full of superficial small talk. Before Taewon could overthink it, he walked over. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else." She turned, raising an eyebrow. "That obvious?" "Only to someone who feels the same way." He held out his hand. "Kong Taewon. Princess Mensa." She shook his hand firmly. "You're the reformed gang leader turned philanthropist, right? I've read about you." Reformed is generous. Trying to be better is more accurate. Taewon grabbed 2 glasses of champagne from a passing waiter, offering her one. "And you are?" "Pediatric surgeon at Seoul Medical. I specialize in cardiac cases." She sipped her champagne. "I actually operated on a patient you sponsored a couple years back. Aoife Abra? Or I suppose it's Aoife Kong now." Taewon's expression shifted immediately. "You're the surgeon who saved my daughter's life?" "I'm one of them, yes. Dr. Song led the procedure, but I assisted." Princess's smile was genuine. "She's doing well, I hope?" "Incredibly well. Thriving, actually. No complications, completely healthy." Taewon couldn't keep the pride out of his voice. She wants to be an engineer. Build things that help people. That's wonderful. She was a brave kid, handled everything with remarkable courage. Princess studied him curiously. You adopted her and her brother, right? That's unusual for someone in your position. What position is that? Rich, powerful, single, with a questionable past. Most people like you write checks and call it philanthropy. You actually changed your life. Taewon found himself liking her bluntness. I didn't plan to adopt them. It just happened. They needed someone, and I was there, and suddenly I couldn't imagine my life without them. That's lovely. Really. Princess's expression softened. Not enough people step up like that. They talked for the rest of the evening, ignoring the other guests entirely. Princess was smart, funny, passionate about her work. She'd grown up in Ghana, moved to Korea for medical school, and stayed because she loved the challenge of building a practice in a country that didn't always embrace foreigners. It's hard, she admitted, being African in Korea. You face prejudice constantly, people assuming you're less qualified or that you don't belong. But I'm good at what I do, and eventually competence wins out. I can relate to that.
Different circumstances, but yeah.
Having to prove yourself constantly gets exhausting. Hence the charity gala hiding. Princess grinned. Networking is just polite code for judging each other while pretending not to. Taewon laughed, genuinely laughed, for the first time all evening. You want to get out of here? There's a great late-night noodle place around the corner. Thought you'd never ask. They ended up talking until 3 a.m, swapping stories over cheap noodles and beer. Taewon told her about his past, about how he'd built his business empire, about his children. Princess shared her journey to becoming a surgeon, the challenges she'd faced, her dreams of opening a free clinic for children who couldn't afford medical care. You should do it, Taewon said. Open the clinic. I'll help fund it. Princess laughed. You can't just throw money at everyone's problems. Why not? I have the money, and you have the expertise. Seems like a natural partnership. We literally just met. So? Sometimes the best decisions are the spontaneous ones. Taewon met her eyes, seriously. I'm not joking. If you're serious about the clinic, I'm serious about helping make it happen. Princess studied him for a long moment. You're either genuinely kind or incredibly impulsive. Can't I be both? She smiled. Maybe you can. They exchanged numbers, and Taewon went home feeling lighter than he had in months. There was something about Princess, a directness, an authenticity that he rarely encountered. She didn't care about his money or his reputation. She'd looked at him and seen just him. Taewon started seeing Princess regularly. Coffee dates that turned into dinner dates that turned into long walks through the city. She met his kids 3 months in, and Aoife immediately adored her. She's so cool. She cuts open people's hearts and fixes them. That's like being a superhero. Hudson was more reserved, watching Princess carefully. After she left, he cornered Taewon in the kitchen. Are you dating her?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Hudson shrugged, trying to look casual. I guess. She seems nice. Just you're not gonna forget about us, right? Once you have a girlfriend? Taewon's chest ached. Hudson, no. Never. You and Aoife are my priority, always. Dating Princess doesn't change that. Promise? I promise. You're my kids. Nothing and no one could ever change how important you are to me. Hudson relaxed slightly. Okay, then, I guess it's cool. She did save Aoife's life, so she's already pretty great in my book. The relationship with Princess progressed naturally, easily. She understood Taewon's commitments to his children, never pushed for more time than he could give. She had her own demanding career, her own life. They fit together comfortably, 2 independent people who chose to share space rather than needing to. 6 months in, Princess started spending weekends at the apartment. She'd help Aoife with her science homework, discuss art theory with Hudson, cook elaborate Ethiopian meals that were far better than Taewon's attempts. The kids loved having her around. One Sunday morning, Taewon woke up to sounds from the kitchen. He found Princess making breakfast while Aoife set the table and Hudson chopped fruit. They were laughing about something, this easy domesticity that made his heart clench. This was family. Not just him and the kids anymore, but something bigger, warmer. Something that felt like home.
Dad.
Princess is teaching us to make banana pancakes. Aoife beamed at him. I can see that. Smells amazing. Taewon kissed the top of Aoife's head, then moved to help Hudson with the fruit. Need assistance? Nah, I got it. But you can make coffee. Your coffee's better than Princess's. Hey! Princess threw a dish towel at Hudson, who dodged it laughing. Later, after the kids were occupied with homework, Princess pulled Taewon onto the balcony. I need to tell you something. Taewon's stomach dropped. That tone never meant anything good. Okay, I got offered a position. Head of pediatric cardiac surgery at a hospital in Seoul. It's a huge opportunity, better pay, more resources, the chance to really make an impact. She paused. But it would mean moving to Seoul, leaving Daegu. Taewon processed this carefully. That's incredible. You should take it. Just like that? You're not going to ask me to stay. Why would I ask you to give up an amazing opportunity? Princess, this is what you've been working toward. Seoul's 2 hours away. We'd barely see each other. Long distance is hard, especially with kids involved. She trailed off, watching him carefully. Then we'll figure it out.
Or.
Taewon took a breath. Or we could move to Seoul. All of us. Princess's eyes widened. Taewon, I can't ask you to uproot your entire life. You're not asking. I'm offering. The kids could handle a move. There are good schools in Seoul. And my business. I can work from anywhere, honestly. I've been thinking about expanding anyway. He took her hand. If you want this job, take it. We'll make it work. You'd really do that? Move your family for me? You're part of my family now, whether you realize it or not. Taewon's voice was steady. I love you, Princess. And I want you to have everything you've worked for. So yeah, I'd move. We'd move. If that's what you need. She kissed him then, soft and sweet and full of promise. I love you too. And yes, let's do it. Let's move to Seoul. Telling the kids was nerve-wracking. Taewon called a family meeting, and Hudson immediately looked suspicious. What's going on? Family meetings are never good news. It's not bad news, exactly. Just news. Taewon glanced at Princess for support. Princess got offered an incredible job in Seoul. Head of pediatric cardiac surgery at one of the best hospitals in the country. That's amazing. Aoife jumped up to hug Princess. Congratulations. Thanks, sweetheart. But the thing is, the job's in Seoul, which is far from here. Hudson's face fell. So you're leaving? Actually, Taewon cleared his throat. We were thinking we could all move to Seoul. Together. Make it a family thing. Silence. Aoife and Hudson exchanged glances. You want to move? All of us. Hudson sounded uncertain. Only if you're comfortable with it. You'd have to change schools, leave your friends here, start over. Taewon leaned forward. But Seoul has amazing schools, more opportunities, and we'd still be together. That's what matters most. Would we still see Mrs. Choi? Aoife asked quietly. Of course. We'd visit all the time. And she could come see us too. Hudson was quiet for a long moment. Then, if we move to Seoul, can I apply to that arts academy I've been reading about? The one with the incredible graphic design program. Taewon smiled. Absolutely. That's exactly the kind of opportunity I'm talking about. Then, okay. I'm in. Hudson looked at his sister. Aoife. I want to go. Seoul has better robotics programs, anyway. And if it means Princess gets her dream job. Aoife grinned. We're a family. We should stick together. The move happened quickly. Taewon found a house in a good neighborhood with excellent schools, close to Princess's new hospital. It was bigger than the apartment, with a yard and space for everyone to spread out. Hudson got into the arts academy. Aoife joined the robotics team at her new school and immediately started winning competitions. Princess's clinic project moved forward too. With Taewon's funding and Princess's expertise, they opened a free pediatric cardiac clinic in one of Seoul's poorer neighborhoods. It was small at first, just a few rooms and a handful of staff, but it made a real difference. Aoife was fascinated by the clinic, started volunteering there on weekends. She'd help file paperwork, talk to the younger kids, watch surgeries from the observation deck. Taewon would find her there on Saturday mornings, completely absorbed. "This is what I want to do," she told him one day. "Not surgery like Princess, but building medical equipment. Better heart monitors, more accurate diagnostic tools. Stuff that could help kids like me." "That's a beautiful goal, sweetheart. And you're smart enough to do it." Taewon put his arm around her shoulders. "I'm proud of you. Not just for your grades or your achievements, but for your heart. You care about helping people. I learned that from you. You showed me what it means to actually care, not just say you care." She leaned against him. "I'm lucky you found us that day, that you didn't just walk away." "I'm the lucky one, Aoife. You and Hudson, you made my life make sense. Before you, I was just going through the motions. Now I have purpose. Life in Seoul was good. Better than good." Taewon and Princess got engaged a year after the move, a simple proposal in their backyard with the kids present. Aoife cried happy tears and Hudson pretended he wasn't emotional but hugged them both fiercely. The wedding was small, intimate. Just close friends and family held at the clinic they'd built together. Mrs. Choi flew in from Daegu, beaming with pride. June gave a surprisingly touching best man speech. And when Taewon and Princess exchanged vows, Aoife and Hudson stood beside them as witnesses, part of the ceremony, part of the promise. "I promise to love you through everything," Princess said, her voice steady. "The easy days and the hard ones. To support your dreams and challenge you to be better. To be a partner to you and a parent to our children. Because that's what Aoife and Hudson are now, ours. Mine too." Taewon's voice cracked when he responded. "I promise to show up. Every day, even when it's hard. To love you authentically. To build a life with you that honors both our pasts and creates a beautiful future. To be the man you deserve and the father our kids need. I promise to choose us, always." When they kissed, Aoife and Hudson cheered louder than anyone. And Taewon thought about how far they'd all come. From that restaurant where a scared 10-year-old had made a silent signal, to this moment of joy and love and family. The honeymoon was a family affair. They went back to Ethiopia together, this time celebrating rather than just remembering. They showed Princess all the places that mattered to Hudson and Aoife, introduced her to the people who'd known their parents. It felt like bringing things full circle, honoring the past while building the future. Back in Seoul, normal life resumed. Taewon balanced running his business empire with being present for his family. He made it to every robotics competition, every art show, every parent-teacher conference. He coached Hudson through applying to universities, helped Aoife with her increasingly complex engineering projects. And through it all, Princess was there. Not just as his wife, but as a true partner, sharing the load of parenting, offering perspective when he got too anxious or overprotective. She understood his children in ways Taewon was still learning, connected with them on different levels. One evening, about 3 years after the wedding, Princess pulled Taewon aside. "I'm pregnant." The world stopped. Taewon stared at her, processing. We're having a baby? We're having a baby. I'm about 8 weeks along." Princess's smile was tentative. "I know we never really discussed expanding the family, but how do you feel about it?" "I feel." Taewon pulled her close, emotions overwhelming him. "I feel like the luckiest man alive. Another child? With you? That's..." He couldn't finish the sentence, just held her tight. Telling Hudson and Aoife was its own adventure. They gathered everyone in the living room and Princess just blurted it out. "I'm pregnant. You're going to have a baby sibling." Aoife screamed so loud the neighbors probably heard. Hudson's jaw dropped. "Seriously? We're getting a baby? In about 7 months, yeah." Princess laughed at their reactions. "What do you think?" "I think it's amazing. Can I help decorate the nursery? And pick out baby clothes? Oh my gosh, I'm going to be a big sister." Aoife was already planning, her mind racing. Hudson was quieter, but his smile was genuine. "A baby.
Wow.
That's really cool. Do you know if it's a boy or a girl yet?" "Too early to tell, but we'll find out in a few months." Taewon watched his kids carefully. "You're both okay with this?" "Really okay." "Dad, are you kidding?" This is incredible. Hudson hugged Princess carefully. We're happy for you. For all of us. The pregnancy was smooth and healthy. Princess continued working almost until her due date, stubborn and determined as always. Taewon became insufferably overprotective, which everyone found hilarious. I'm a surgeon, Princess reminded him when he tried to stop her from carrying groceries. I literally perform open-heart surgery on infants. I can handle a bag of apples. But you're pregnant with our baby. Let me handle the apples. She rolled her eyes but let him carry the groceries anyway, secretly charmed by his protectiveness. Aoife threw herself into preparing for the baby. She read every parenting book she could find, took a babysitting course, decorated the nursery in soft greens and yellows. Hudson was more reserved, but Taewon caught him researching the best baby monitors and car seats, wanting everything to be perfect. The baby came on a rainy Tuesday in November. Labor was long and difficult, and Taewon nearly wore a hole in the hospital floor with his pacing. Hudson and Aoife waited with him, all three of them a bundle of nerves. When the nurse finally came out with news, Taewon nearly collapsed with relief. Healthy baby girl. Mom and baby are both doing great. You can see them now. The baby was tiny, perfect, with Princess's dark skin and Taewon's eyes. She had a full head of black hair and the most beautiful little face. Princess looked exhausted but radiant, holding their daughter with practiced ease. Meet your sister, Princess said softly to Hudson and Aoife. Her name is Madeline. It means peace. Aoife burst into tears immediately. She's so beautiful. Can I hold her? Of course. Just support her head. Watching Aoife cradle her baby sister, watching Hudson lean in to stroke Madeline's tiny hand, Taewon felt his heart expand in ways he hadn't known were possible. This was his family. All of them, together. The first few months with a newborn were chaotic. Taewon had forgotten how exhausting babies were. Wait, he'd never known because he'd never done this before. Sleepless nights, constant feeding, the endless laundry. But Hudson and Aoife stepped up, helping in ways that made Taewon proud. Aoife was a natural with Madeline, patient and gentle. She'd hold her for hours, singing Ethiopian lullabies their mother had taught her. Hudson was more awkward but fiercely protective, always making sure the baby had everything she needed. You're both amazing, Taewon told them one night after they'd successfully gotten Madeline to sleep. Not all teenagers would be this involved with a baby sibling. She's not just a sibling, Aoife said simply. She's ours. Our sister, our family. Of course we're going to help take care of her. As Madeline grew, she became the center of the family's universe. Her first smile, first laugh, first steps, they all celebrated every milestone together. Aoife would film everything on her phone, creating a massive digital scrapbook. Hudson drew portraits of Madeline at different ages, capturing her growth in art. When Madeline was 2, Hudson left for university. He'd been accepted into one of the best art programs in the country, full scholarship based on his portfolio. The day Taewon and Princess drove him to campus, Aoife cried the whole way. I'm going to miss you so much, she sniffled, hugging her brother tight. I'm coming home on weekends, drama queen. It's not like I'm moving to another country. But Hudson's eyes were suspiciously bright too. Take care of everyone, okay? And send me videos of Madeline. I want to see everything. I promise. And you better actually come home on weekends. Don't get too cool for us. Never. Hudson hugged his whole family one more time. Love you guys. The house felt empty without Hudson, but he kept his promise. Every weekend he came home, bringing friends sometimes, always spending hours playing with Madeline and catching up with Aoife. He thrived at university, his talent finally getting the recognition it deserved. Aoife, meanwhile, had been accepted into an early college program for engineering. At 16, she was taking university-level courses while finishing high school, her mind constantly working on new designs and innovations. She'd already filed 2 patents for medical devices she'd invented, improvements on existing cardiac monitoring systems. She's going to change the world, Princess said one night, watching Aoife work on her latest project. That girl's going to revolutionize pediatric medicine. She gets that from you. The determination, the brilliance. Taewon pulled Princess close. You've been such an incredible mother to her. To both of them. They make it easy. They're remarkable kids. Princess paused. Do you ever think about where we'd all be if you hadn't noticed that signal that day? If you just walked past? Taewon shuddered. I try not to.
But yeah.
Sometimes I think about it. How close I came to missing the most important moment of my life. Fate, maybe. Or divine intervention. Or just unluck. Princess smiled. Whatever it was, I'm grateful. For you, for them, for this family we've built. Life continued its forward momentum. Madeline started preschool, bright and curious, and already showing signs of inheriting her siblings' intelligence. She loved science like Aoife, loved drawing like Hudson, and had Taewon's stubbornness and Princess's compassion. Then, when Madeline was 4 and Aoife was in her second year of university, disaster struck. It started with a phone call. Detective Ryu, someone Taewon hadn't heard from in years. We need to talk. In person. Now. Taewon's stomach dropped. Nothing good ever came from that tone. What's wrong? Not over the phone. How soon can you get to the station? An hour later, Taewon sat across from Ryu, his lawyer June beside him. Ryu looked grim. We've arrested someone. Gang leader. Runs a trafficking operation. He's been talking. Trying to make a deal. And he mentioned you. I haven't been involved in that world for years. You know that. I do. But he's claiming you sabotaged his operations years ago. That you shut down his trafficking network, cost him millions. And now. Ryu hesitated. He's made threats. Against your family. Everything went cold. What kind of threats? Specific ones. Names, addresses, daily routines. He knows where your kids go to school, where your wife works. And he's got connections inside and outside prison. Taewon, you need to take this seriously. What do you need from me? Increased security. Police protection for your family. And honestly, probably relocating for a while until we can neutralize the threat. Ryu's expression was sympathetic. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you want to hear. Taewon's mind raced. He'd thought his past was behind him, that he'd finally built a safe, stable life for his family. But of course it couldn't be that simple. Violence had a way of echoing forward, consequences rippling through time. That night, he told Princess everything. About the threats, about the danger, about what they needed to do. We have to leave Seoul. Maybe leave Korea entirely for a few months until this gets resolved. His voice was tight. I'm so sorry. I thought I'd left all this behind, but... Stop. This isn't your fault. Princess's voice was firm. You saved those children years ago. You did the right thing. The fact that some criminal is angry about it doesn't make your actions wrong. But it puts you at risk. All of you. Aoife, Hudson, Madeline. Taewon's hands shook. If anything happened to any of you because of my past, nothing's going to happen. We'll be smart, we'll be safe, and we'll get through this. Princess took his hands, steadying them. Together. Like we always do. They decided on Canada. Vancouver, specifically, where Princess had colleagues who could help her find temporary work and where they could disappear into the city's multicultural mix. They told the kids the next day, and reactions were mixed. Aoife took it in stride. How long? Maybe 3 months. Maybe 6. Until the threats neutralized. Taewon watched her carefully. You'd have to defer your semester, leave your research projects. I can work remotely. And, honestly, adventure sounds kind of exciting. Aoife's smile was strained but genuine. Plus, Canadian universities have great engineering programs. Maybe I can visit some campuses while we're there. Hudson was less sanguine. This is because of your past? Because you helped us and it made someone angry. Essentially, yes. Taewon met his son's eyes. I'm sorry. I know this disrupts your life. Stop apologizing. You saved us. You saved dozens of other kids. Someone being angry about that is their problem, not yours. Hudson's voice was fierce. We're with you. All of us. Whatever we need to do. Madeline didn't understand what was happening, just that they were going on a big adventure. She was excited about the plane ride, about seeing a new city. Her innocence was both heartbreaking and comforting. They left Korea 2 weeks later. Taewon arranged everything through shell companies and trusted intermediaries, making sure their destination was untraceable. June stayed behind to manage the businesses and act as liaison with the police. Vancouver was beautiful, rainy, completely different from Seoul. They rented a house in a quiet suburb, enrolled Madeline in preschool under false names, and tried to build a semblance of normal life. But it was hard. Aoife missed her university, her research. Hudson missed his friends and his art studio. Princess struggled with being away from her clinic, worried about her patients. And Taewon felt the crushing weight of guilt that his past had forced this on his family. 2 months in, Aoife found Taewon sitting alone in the dark living room at 3 a.m. "Can't sleep?" He's startled. "What are you doing up?" "Same as you, probably. Worrying." She sat beside him on the couch. "This isn't your fault, you know. What that man's doing, the threats, none of it's on you. I brought this danger to our family."
No.
He brought this danger. You just lived your life and refused to be controlled by fear or guilt. Aoife took his hand. "Dad, if you hadn't helped us, Hudson and I would probably be dead. Or worse. We wouldn't have had the life we've had, the opportunities, the love. That's what matters. But you're here in hiding because of me. We're here because we're a family and families stick together. That's what you taught us." Her voice was soft but certain. "Stop beating yourself up. We're okay. We're safe. And when this is over, we'll go home and everything will be fine." Taewon pulled her into a hug, this brilliant, compassionate young woman his daughter had become. "When did you get so wise?" "I had a pretty good teacher." The threat was neutralized 4 months later. The gang leader's organization crumbled under police pressure, his connection severed, his power broken. Detective Ryu called, with the all clear. "It's safe to come home. We've made arrests, frozen assets, dismantled the entire network. There's no one left to threaten you." The relief was overwhelming. They were on a plane back to Korea within days, and the moment they walked into their Seoul home, it felt like they could finally breathe again. Aoife returned to university with a renewed focus. She'd used her time in Vancouver to design a revolutionary new pediatric heart monitor, one that was more accurate and less invasive than existing models. When she presented it to her professors, they immediately helped her patent and develop it. Within 2 years, her invention was in hospitals across Korea, then across Asia, then worldwide. Aoife Kong, at 21, became one of the youngest medical device innovators in history. Awards followed, recognition, offers from major medical technology companies. But Aoife turned them all down. Instead, she partnered with Princess to expand the free clinic, installing her monitors in underserved communities where families couldn't afford expensive medical equipment. "This is what Mom would have wanted," she told Taewon when he asked why she wasn't pursuing more lucrative opportunities. "She always said our lives should help other lives. I have the ability to do that now. Why would I waste it chasing profit?" Hudson graduated university with honors, his senior art show drawing attention from galleries across the country. His work focused on themes of displacement, family, and finding home, powerful visual narratives that reflected his own journey. He ended up working for a major animation studio, creating children's content that celebrated diversity and different kinds of families. And through it all, Taewon and Princess held the family together. They celebrated milestones and weathered storms, supported their children's dreams while building their own life together. The clinic expanded into 3 locations. Taewon's businesses continued to thrive, though he'd shifted focus towards social enterprises and ethical investments. When Madeline was 8, she asked about how the family came together. "Tell me the story again. About how you found Hudson and Aoife." Taewon pulled her onto his lap, Aoife and Hudson settling on either side of them on the couch. Princess sat across from them, smiling at this familiar ritual. "Well, I was at a restaurant. Just a normal Tuesday, nothing special. And I looked across the room and saw a little girl." He tapped Madeline's collarbone 3 times, making her giggle. "Making this signal. 3 taps. And I knew she needed help. Because you taught that signal to kids when you were different," Madeline supplied. She'd heard this story dozens of times, but never tired of it.
Exactly.
"So I went over and helped. Found out she had a brother who'd been taken by bad people. And I helped find him too. And then you fell in love with them and became their dad. Madeline was bouncing with excitement. Well, it took a little longer than that. But yeah, basically. Taewon hugged Aoife and Hudson close. Best decision I ever made. Second best, Princess corrected. The first best was marrying me. Obviously. That goes without saying. Madeline looked between her older siblings and her parents, her expression serious. I'm glad you saw the signal, Dad. Otherwise, we wouldn't all be together. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. Years passed. Hudson got married to another artist he'd met at the studio, someone kind and creative who fit seamlessly into their chaotic family. Aoife focused on her work, revolutionizing pediatric medicine one innovation at a time, though she confided in Taewon that she was starting to think about dating. I've just been so focused on my career. But lately I've been wondering if maybe I'm missing something. She shrugged. Is that weird? Not weird at all. You're allowed to want a personal life too, sweetheart. You don't have to choose between career and relationships. Taewon smiled. And whoever you end up with will be incredibly lucky. You're biased. Absolutely. But also correct. The free clinic grew into a full hospital, the Madeline Kong Children's Hospital, named after Taewon and Princess's youngest. It provided free or reduced-cost care to families who couldn't afford it, staffed by some of the best pediatric specialists in the country. Aoife's inventions were used exclusively there, given away rather than sold. On the hospital's opening day, Taewon stood with his entire family, looking at the building they'd all helped create in different ways. Your mother would be so proud, he told Hudson and Aoife quietly. Both your mothers, actually. The family you were born into, and the one we've built. They'd be proud of who you've become. I hope so. Aoife leaned against Taewon's shoulder. I think about them sometimes. My birth parents. Wonder what they'd think of my life. They'd think they raised an incredible daughter who changed the world. They'd think their sacrifice meant something, because you're here doing extraordinary things. Taewon's voice was thick with emotion. They'd think exactly what I think, that you're remarkable. Hudson wrapped his arm around both of them. We're lucky, you know. Not everyone gets multiple families worth of love. But we do. We got our birth parents who loved us enough to risk everything trying to give us a better life. And we got you and Princess who loved us enough to make us yours. That's pretty special. You're pretty special, Taewon corrected. Both of you. And Madeline. You're all the best parts of my life. That evening, after the speeches and celebrations, the family gathered at home. They did what they always did on important days, sat together in the living room, sharing food and stories and laughter. Madeline, now 12, showed them her science project. Hudson's husband talked about the new animated series they were working on. Aoife outlined her next invention, eyes bright with enthusiasm. And Taewon watched all of it with a full heart, thinking about that day in the restaurant so many years ago. A scared little girl making a silent signal. A split-second decision to help rather than walk away. Everything that had followed from that single moment. Princess caught his eye from across the room and smiled, that private smile that was just for him. She mouthed, I love you, and Taewon mouthed it back, grateful beyond words for this life they'd built. Dad, you're spacing out again, Aoife teased. Come back to us.
Sorry.
Just thinking. Taewon pulled himself back to the present. What were we talking about? Madeline's science project. Pay attention, old man. I'm not old. I'm distinguished. The family laughed, the sound filling the house with warmth and joy and love. And Taewon thought about how different his life could have been. How he could have walked past that signal, could have stayed the man he used to be, could have lived his entire life, never knowing what he was missing. But he didn't. He saw a child in need, and helped. And that help had transformed into love, and love had transformed into family, and family had transformed into purpose. Years later, when Taewon was older and Madeline was preparing for university, a documentary filmmaker approached him about telling his story. The redemption arc of a gang leader who became a father and philanthropist, who helped dismantle trafficking networks and build hospitals and raise extraordinary children. Taewon almost said no. He'd never been comfortable with attention or praise. But Aoife convinced him otherwise. Think about all the scared people out there who think they're too broken to change. who think their past defines their future. Your story could help them see that transformation is possible. She squeezed his hand. Please, Dad. Let people see what I see, that anyone can choose to be better. So he agreed. The documentary took 2 years to make, interviewing everyone involved. Detective Ryu, Mrs. Choi, June, former gang members who'd known him in his old life. But the heart of it was Hudson and Aoife, talking about what it meant to be saved, to be loved, to be given a chance at life. He didn't have to help us, Hudson said on camera. He could have walked away, let someone else handle it, kept his life simple. But he didn't. He saw 2 kids in trouble, and he decided we mattered. That decision changed everything. Aoife's segment was even more powerful. She talked about being that scared 10-year-old, about making the signal with no real hope anyone would understand, about Taewon appearing like some kind of guardian angel and refusing to leave until she was safe. People ask me all the time why I dedicate my life to helping sick children. And the answer's simple, because someone dedicated his life to helping me. Dad showed me what it means to actually care, to put action behind your words. Everything I am, everything I've accomplished, it started with him noticing a signal and choosing to help. The documentary premiered at an international film festival and won multiple awards. But more importantly, it inspired people. Taewon started getting letters from all over the world, from former criminals trying to turn their lives around, from foster parents deciding to adopt, from people who saw themselves in his story and found hope. One letter in particular stood out. It was from a young woman in Europe who'd been trafficked as a child, who'd survived and was now working to help other survivors. She wrote about watching the documentary and crying at Aoife's segment, about how it gave her permission to believe her life could be more than her trauma. Thank you for showing that healing is possible, she wrote. That we're not defined by what was done to us, but by what we choose to do next. Your family gives me hope. Taewon kept that letter in his desk, pulling it out whenever he doubted whether sharing his story had been the right choice. Because if it helped even one person feel less alone, less broken, less hopeless, then it was worth the discomfort of being public. The years continued their steady march. Hudson and his husband adopted 2 children of their own, siblings from Ethiopia like Hudson and Aoife had been. The family grew, expanded, became this beautiful tapestry of different stories and backgrounds all woven together by love. Madeline followed in Aoife's footsteps, studying biomedical engineering with a focus on prosthetics for children in developing countries. She'd inherited her sister's brilliance and her parents' compassion, and she was determined to make her own mark on the world. And Taewon and Princess grew old together, surrounded by children and grandchildren and the legacy they'd built. The hospital continued to thrive, saving lives and giving hope to families who had none. Aoife's inventions had improved outcomes for millions of children worldwide. Hudson's art had touched hearts and changed minds about what family could look like. On Taewon's 70th birthday, his family threw him a surprise party at the hospital. Hundreds of people showed up, patients they'd helped over the years, families who'd been saved by Aoife's inventions, children from the original trafficking network Taewon had helped dismantle who are now adults with families of their own. You changed so many lives, one woman told him, holding her healthy toddler. My daughter's alive because of the monitors Dr. Aoife invented. Thank you for raising someone so brilliant and compassionate. Taewon found Aoife in the crowd and pulled her close. She's pretty remarkable, isn't she? The most remarkable. But she had a pretty good teacher. At the end of the night, when most of the guests had left, Taewon's immediate family gathered in his hospital office. Hudson and his family, Aoife and her partner she'd finally allowed herself to fall for, Madeline and her university friends. And at the center of it all, Princess, still beautiful, still brilliant, still the love of his life after all these years. I want to say something, Taewon said, and the room quieted. When I was young, I thought power meant control. I thought strength meant never showing weakness, never needing anyone. I built an empire based on fear and violence, and I thought that made me important. He paused, looking at each of his children in turn. Then I saw a little girl making a signal in a restaurant, and I made a choice that changed everything. I chose to help instead of walk away. I chose connection over isolation. I chose love over fear. His voice cracked. And that choice gave me all of this. You, Aoife, with your brilliant mind and compassionate heart. You, Hudson, with your fierce protectiveness and creative soul. You, Madeline, with your determination to make the world better. You, Princess, who showed me what partnership really means. He smiled at his grandchildren. All of you, this entire beautiful, chaotic family we've built. You're my real legacy. Not the businesses or the money or the reputation. You, all of you. Aoife was crying openly now, and Hudson had his arm around her shoulders. Madeline hugged Taewon tight, followed by everyone else until it became a massive group hug, 3 generations of family all holding each other close. We love you, Dad, Aoife whispered. Thank you for seeing that signal. Thank you for not walking away. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for letting me be your father. It's been the greatest honor of my life. Later, when it was just Taewon and Princess in their bedroom, she curled against him the way she had for decades. No regrets, she asked softly. Not a single one. You? Only that we didn't meet sooner. We could have had even more time together. She kissed his shoulder. But I'll take what we have. This beautiful, complicated, perfect life we've built. Perfect is generous. We've definitely had our share of chaos. Perfect for us, then. Our kind of perfect. Princess was quiet for a moment. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't noticed that signal? Taewon shuddered. I try not to, but sometimes, yeah. I think about how close I came to missing everything. Missing them. Missing you. Missing this entire life. He held her tighter. I'm grateful every single day that I paid attention. That I cared enough to act. The world's better because you did. Not just our little family, but all the lives you've touched, all the changes you've set in motion. Princess smiled against his chest. You're a good man, Kang Taewon. The very best kind of man. And lying there in the dark, surrounded by the quiet sounds of his family settling in for the night, Taewon felt at peace. His past no longer haunted him because his present was full of love. His mistakes had been real, but so was his transformation. He'd been given a second chance, and he'd used it to build something meaningful. A scared 10-year-old had made a quiet signal to a man who could have been anything. A former gang leader, a businessman, a stranger passing through. But in that moment, he'd chosen to be a helper. And that choice had rippled outward, touching more lives than he could count, creating waves of change that would continue long after he was gone. Sometimes the smallest gestures change everything. 3 taps on a collarbone. A decision to notice instead of ignore. A willingness to act instead of walk away. That's all it takes, really, someone who sees and someone who cares, and a moment where those 2 things intersect. Taewon had been that someone. And his life had been forever transformed because of it. And that's their story. Pretty amazing how one small signal can change absolutely everything, right? Makes you think about the moments we might be missing every day. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. You hanging around for more stories like this would mean the world. And hey, drop a comment about what moment changed your life. I'd love to hear it.